शेरी कश्मीर इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मेडिकल साइंसेस न सिर्फ एक हॉस्पिटल है बल्कि एक मेडिकल यूनिवर्सिटी है. द फैक्ट दैट इट इज़ अ मेडिकल यूनिवर्सिटी, यहाँ पे टीचिंग, ट्रेनिंग, रिसर्च एक्टिविटीज़ की ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंस रहती है और साइमल्टेनियसली पेशेंट केयर के हवाले से जो लेवल ऑफ केयर है उसको हम टर्शियरी केयर कहते हैं. द पॉइंट आई वांट टू कन्वे इज दैट बीइंग अ medical university, in addition to all the spheres of activities that I enumerated, this university produces human resource of the highest order. That includes faculty, that includes residents, that includes scholars from postdoctoral to postgraduate to graduate and undergraduate level. That simultaneously includes not only doctors but nurses, paramedics, technicians, and all other components who are required in medical field or in healthcare sector. So far as the contribution of this institute is concerned with the COVID management, we all know that corona pandemic engulfed the entire world in 2020. The first phase is already over. The second phase is literally going to end very soon. At Sher-e Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences, we have the distinction of having the first of its kind state virology laboratory that have done maximum number of COVID tests so far in the Union Territory of J&K. Our lab has been the first lab that was authorized to do the tests. From that point onwards, we have laid stress on contact tracing, containment of the viral transmission through various modalities, following various SOPs, guidelines, government advisories, medical advisories, and the instructions from Indian Council of Medical Research. We have seen the way the world has been going through. We have devised our own protocols for containment of this pandemic. We have devised our own protocols for management of the level 3 patients who otherwise come to our institution at a very late stage where their survival is threatened. When they come at a late stage of their presentation, they come with multi-organ failure where the very survival is threatened. This multi-organ failure is on account of either patients having comorbidities because of hypertension, diabetes, cancers, chronic kidney disease, chronic liver disease, strokes, myocardial infarctions, so on and so forth. All these people who come at a very late stage, when the phenomenon of the pan-inflammatory response in the body is already set in, what we call as cytokine storm, at that point of time, it's very difficult to handle a situation and to manage a patient who needs not only respiratory support but all other multi-organ support, for which the Sher-e Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences has been designated as level 3 care, for which the Sher-e Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences has done a human service till date. I, along with my all medical fraternity and team members, from professors down to scholars, residents, nurses, paramedics, technicians, management services, security, sanitation departments, engineers, and the administrators, one and all has chipped in at this Institute of Medical Sciences to help combat this corona pandemic at Sher-e Kashmir Medical Sciences. The way the entire world has seen it, our people in the Union Territory of J&K have seen it, and the country at large have seen it. With the strict surveillance and monitoring by the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Shri Manoj Sinha ji at the helm of affairs, and with his honorable advisors, with the worthy Chief Secretary, with the Financial Commissioners, with the Financial Commissioner Health, with the various heads of the institutions in medical services, principals, medical fraternity, directors, and all other people in the field or in the tertiary care centers or district level centers or primary level centers. Every doctor, every paramedic, every person has chipped in to do or to render his or her services. In fact, I commend the people at large and the NGOs and the media related people who have done their best, who have coordinated, who have cooperated, who have conveyed the awareness, who have educated youth, and who have strictly followed the guidelines from the government, who have strictly followed the advisories from the government, and who have strictly followed the advisories from the medical fraternity also. It is because of this combined effort from one and all that we have been able to handle the second wave of this corona pandemic so efficiently. The results are in front of you. The data is all in front of the entire world. The data that we see on an average is in itself indicating the way we have been able to manage this pandemic. The good news is that at some point of time, at the Sri Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences, the people who were admitted with corona pandemic infection were about 296 at the peak of it. Today, this figure has come down to 126 people only. With comorbidities, the requirements for ventilatory support or respiratory support or other multi-organ support has also come down drastically. However, my team members, my medical fraternity, and everybody else, we are all constantly not only monitoring the behavior of this virus, not only the way this pandemic is unfolding, but simultaneously handling it also and trying to ensure that each and every life is saved, whosoever reports this institution. However, the source of concern remains the late presentation of these people who get either treated at their home to begin with or in different other level centers where they end up with either the multiple organ dysfunction or late presentation to our institution, where the morbidity may be on a higher side or the mortality may be on a higher side. But my team effort and my entire medical fraternity has been constantly 24/7 geared up right from the COVID clinic that has been designated to test the people for detecting the corona pandemic disease to the level of the intensive care management at different states. We have been all focused to contain this pandemic, to treat the level 3 illnesses, and to minimize the morbidity and mortality. So far as the management of the COVID pandemic at Sri Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences is concerned, as I said, from testing, from detection of the cases, from screening, from the triage center at the Sri Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences to the COVID clinic and to emergency services, and ultimately even in the intensive care facilities, or then recovery from the COVID in the recovery wards. All these levels of care at Sri Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences are managed by the group of senior professors, junior faculty members, the residents, the nurses, the paramedics, and all other ancillary or auxiliary forces who are involved in different cares or different levels, from delivery of the oxygen molecule as a treatment to the injectable drugs like remdesivir or the steroids or even tocilizumab, including the latest molecules in the fight against the corona pandemic. We are all geared up and working simultaneously with our heads together. We keep on taking the decisions in the advisory committee, which I have formulated from the day one, and where we review our decisions, where we review our results, where we review our further scope of improvement on weekly basis or as and when desired. This is because of the constant surveillance and constant monitoring and constant analysis of the data that we keep on updating our management. Accordingly, one of the lines of the management has been to restrict the OPDs, and in that direction, Sher-e Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences last year continued its OPD services and continued the non-COVID management as well. This year again, we continued our OPD services as well as non-COVID management at this institution. Of course, very lately, when we saw the second wave with its higher transmissibility and higher mortality, we had to restrict our OPD services also. We have dedicated a number of landlines and mobile lines to the tune of around 40 in number for a virtual clinic where we continue to give teleconsultations to our people from different areas of the Union Territory of J&K or at different areas of the country, or even some people who are living in different parts of the world. Our doctors, our team management are in touch with their patients on day-to-day basis through various clinics. The way they were running the OPD services as per that particular schedule of a particular specialty on an OPD, the same service continues virtually also, and the virtual clinics are the order of the day-to-day. We will ensure that in spite of the virtual clinics, we have kept some OPD provision for the patients who are supposed to be seen physically or assessed physically and investigated. On that occasion, we have kept some rooms in the OPD available where doctors attend to their patients in physical mode as well, besides the virtual mode. At the same time, as we see the dip in the number of cases, as we see the pandemic coming down a little further, as we see the wave getting controlled a little further, we will be easing out the restrictions of our OPD management as well very soon. You see, from the days of this pandemic from 2020, today in the mid of 2021, we have seen the devastation created by this pandemic world over. And our country and our Union Territory is no exception. The maximum number of people infected with this virus have been in the highest developed, economically strong, number one economy of the world, that is United States of America. The world, the leading economies from US to Europe and Asian continent, we have seen how this pandemic has created devastation everywhere. The maximum number of deaths have happened in United States. Next number goes to Brazil. India unfortunately comes at number 3 in terms of the deaths because of this pandemic. However, we have to see the population of this country also. It is 1.38 billion, amongst which we have, as on date, 280 million people suffering from coronavirus infection today. Out of this 280 million population in India, we have so far lost 3.29 million who have succumbed to this corona pandemic. If we see the vaccination drive, India is on top of the vaccination drive today. So far, India has surpassed any other country so far as the population density is concerned in terms of the vaccination. India has so far vaccinated 21.31 million people, which is far beyond any other number in any other country in the world. No doubt in terms of the population ratio, US and some other European countries may be ahead of us. But if you see the population overall and the density of the population in India, then we are marching ahead, and we will very soon be number one country so far as the vaccination drive is concerned. With various vaccinations and vaccination strategies in force by Government of India, and in particular the Union Territory of J&K, with Honorable Lieutenant Governor Sir monitoring the situation very closely and taking front lead in the deliverance of the health care of the highest order, I'm sure this vaccination drive will be the most successful in the country as well as from the country for the rest of the world. You see, when we see the treatment for corona pandemic, this came as a novel disease where the world was not prepared. Nobody knew what exactly is the treatment for corona, and that enigma continues even today. We still do not have any single molecule that can cure the pandemic, the infection, or the multi-organ involvement by this virus. We understand today that from oxygen to antivirals to steroids to all other high-end medicines, there is not a single drug or a single molecule that is the treatment of choice or the ultimate molecule in its treatment. The fact remains, for any viral pathology, for any viral pandemic, there is only one answer, and that is vaccine. Be it poliomyelitis, be it smallpox, be it measles, be it Japanese encephalitis, be it any other viral pandemic, be any other viral pathology, Ebola, swine flu, and today corona, the only and the ultimate resort is vaccine. I would urge my brothers, my sisters, fellow citizens, that we must go for the vaccination and get immunized against this virus. This is the ultimate tool, the only tool. If we go on increasing our vaccination, if we go on following the strategy that the government has put in place, I'm sure a day will come that we will defeat this corona very effectively, very efficiently. However, this coronal infection today is a pandemic. It will have to live with us. It will turn into endemicity over a period of time. The more we vaccinate our people, the more herd immunity we get, the more the number of the deaths and the infections will come down. And as this virus stays in the endemic nature with us, we'll be able to survive far better. And that is the only way forwards to deal with this corona. My message is that one and all, we need to get vaccinated. As per the strategy adopted by the Government of India, as per the guidelines from Indian Council of Medical Research, as per the guidelines from the Union Territory of J&K, I would request and handfoldedly, humbly advise my fellow citizens that they should go for the vaccination, they should get immunized. That is the way to survive, and that is the way to let others survive, so that we break the chain and we save ourselves. Sher-e Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences, as I said, is a deemed university, a medical university, wherein we have teaching, training and research programs besides level 3 tertiary care for any illness. This university has lived almost 38 years plus of its existence. It started with 250 bedded tertiary care center. Today, its strength has gone to about 200 plus beds. And in last 4.5 years of my being in the position of director of this institution, I enhanced its bed capacity from 650 beds in 2016 to 1250 beds today. Means twice the number of beds without anybody realizing it. Proportionately, I have increased the spectrum of the various specialties and the subspecialties. And my dream for this institution is to get on to as many other subspecialties and super specialties, so that We are second to none in the world. In that direction, all of you know that we have our PET scan with us, we have CT scans, with our MRIs with us, we have many other projects like organ transplant center. I have the dream projects like new neurosciences and cardiac sciences centers, new emergency block and emergency OPD services, including trauma center, 1,000-seated auditorium, an advanced pediatric center. Similarly, an advanced radiation sciences block, entirely different from invasive to interventional medicine, all other specialties, to enumerate a few. That vision of mine for short term 2025 to long term 2030, for 5 to 10 years projects which have been submitted to the government for its implementation. The preliminary project reports have been submitted to the government. This is in the various phases of discussions. I'm sure in the future, for next 100 years or so, I hope to see better services at the sharing of internal sciences and further subspecialties and diversifications, so that the needs for the people for next 100 years are taken care of. Because the diseases, the treatments, the modalities which are relevant today may not be relevant tomorrow. The things that are absolute today will be obsolete tomorrow. We have to update ourselves, we have to gear ourselves, we have to prepare ourselves for the next generation, next challenges which are entirely different. That is my vision, that's my mission. So far as government restrictions are concerned, I said to begin with that various modes and modalities of containment of this virus and the management of the pandemic includes the restrictions of the movements of the people from going to the gatherings, for participating in large scale gatherings, or where number of interactions between people at business, in the schools, universities, colleges, or business centers, trade, commerce, education, offices, wherever the gatherings are supposed to be there, the transmissibility of this virus will be more. So in order to restrict the transmissibility, in order to break the chain of transmission, in order to break the virulence of this virus and spreading it at a faster rate and claiming the lives, one of the important measures and the most effective measures has been the lockdown and the restrictions on the moment. Government, from the advisories from the concerned sections or the concerned group of people who are the advisors at the helm of affairs, continue to evaluate the situation, continue to keep the situation under surveillance and monitor, and as per the advice, as per the requirements, the restrictions are imposed, which are ultimately eased out as and when the restrictions serve their purpose. My message to the people and my brothers and my sisters would be that this corona virus does not discriminate between young and old. It does not discriminate between religion or region. It affects anyone, from newborn to the most elderly. It devastates the life anywhere, be it in the worst hit country like Brazil or United States, or be it any other economy or the state of any country, irrespective of the health infrastructure. It does not spare anybody. The only measure is to eradicate it. And how can we eradicate? Is the vaccine. As we have seen, for any viral infection, vaccination is the ultimate answer. So is true of corona. I would urge my people, my fellow citizens, to go for vaccination, one and all, because we have to choose between vaccination or ventilation, vaccination or famine. If we don't vaccinate one and all, we'll continue to suffer. If we continue to lose lives, we'll reach a level of stage where it will be famine, where hunger and poverty will be prevalent everywhere, where death will be in order if we have to stop that, if we have to foresee the future of our new generation, if we have to look for the jobs, if we have to look for the education, the business, the trade, the commerce, and our survival, peace and progress and development, then vaccination is one and only resort.